So it's really not fit to be outside. Just not enjoying this at all. This is the weather today, so here's the story. I'm done outside, how about that? I like being inside. So, gonna cruise inside and show you one of the things that we got going on today. So, I got this 73 Challenger here. It is getting a big block under the hood. So that's all mocked up. Customer brought that up. And then we are putting in a 6-speed Tremec transmission. So this floor needs some serious modifications done to it. Car's pretty gutted out, ready to go. So this is a kit that the customer got. It is from Silver Sport Transmission with the transmission, bell housing, I believe, and a floor patch kit. Originally when he ordered it, he did not order, I guess it was a little bit confusing. He didn't get the 4-speed floor hump, which on an e-body, you definitely have to put the factory style 4-speed floor hump in. So that's what I'm going to be doing, is the modifications to the floor, getting rid of the automatic stuff, repairing the floor, and yeah, that's pretty much what we'll do, is show the progress of how that goes. This car is at the beginning stages. Those are automatic mounts. We're going to take them out and save them. He's going to be going in for manual console, I believe. So e-body stuff is probably, you know, fairly expensive. They're a very desirable car, so we'll save whatever we can there. Now, the one thing that I see quite often is cars come in and the glass is not protected. Now, this job isn't a real sparky job, but we want to take the precautions that we can. The windshield is messed up, so it's going to need to be replaced, but we want to wrap the mirrors up and so on. And you know, this is precautionary. Really, it's not going to be too sparky a job. It's going to be TIG welded and so on. But anyway, so yeah, that's the prep work. And then the floor is really sticky, so we're going to have to put some stuff down and do some serious cleaning in here to start to work. So me claiming this wasn't going to be a very sparky job. I haven't done one of these kits before. This is the very first time. I haven't had to change the mounts for a console before either, but there's some really interesting handy dandy work going on in here, and I'm not sure. I can't see factory doing this, but this is all weld. That is actual, someone welded this on. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more protection and we're gonna be grinding. What I've done is I took this console, or the 4-speed hump, and I'm just fitting it in here. I really roughly ground off the brackets. They are salvageable, so someone will be probably needing a console in an auto car. But this, according to their instructions, what they want is we're going to be cutting out most of the floor below this console, so I don't have to clean up all the junk that they had done up there, which is absolutely beautiful because I don't want to. And there is one issue though. So there is a bump in the floor, as you can see right here. That's quite a gap there. So if someone is doing this project, this is going to have to be something that is addressed. So I don't know, you could slice it, weld it, whatever. I happen to have the tools. What I'm going to be doing is I am just going to be hammering and dollying that up to the correct height and trimming it up. It'll look good and we'll get it in there. So I have the floor hump in right now and it is just screwed in. Reason why is I'm going to try and do this in one step. We'll see. I've measured off of my hoist, which is set up like a frame jig, and so the floor is cut out as per their instructions for the hump. I reshaped the hump. We'll look at it inside. It looked really good, worked out well. I think I'm just gonna leave that little lip after we test fit the transmission. We'll know for sure. There's a lot of this needs to be cut out according to their instructions, the floor, and raised. So yeah, so I've taken measurements. My hoist is set up like a frame jig. I don't have the car welded down. What I'm hoping is that I can do this using the Crossmember and the instructions that Silver Sport transmission has supplied, and we'll see if the car moves. If it does, that's not a big deal. I can easily prop that back up, and I just have to weld the car down to the hoist. And anyway, I'm just going to go with the instructions now on cutting out the cross member here, and we should be good to go. So I thought I'd just throw the cross member up here really quick and take a look. And I centered the holes that are existing there. And these holes don't line up centered if I center these ones. But you can also see that they're gonna need to be slotted. Same back here. There's nothing in the instructions about that, but I am going to line it up how the instructions say to do it exactly, but I have scribed the holes on where they need to be slided and so on, if that's how the cross member fits. I don't believe it is, because the instructions are to measure 15/16 off of that center hole, so I believe we're only going to be slotting the driver's side hole, if that makes sense. So got the cross member in. Now the holes up in here, we had figured out that they weren't set properly, like they weren't evenly spaced. And of course, factory stuff, you know, that's definitely an issue where things aren't always exact. This is a 73 Challenger, and it says 73, 70/40, you're gonna find different holes, which of course, different years, different cars will have differences. I was hoping that it moved it over to the driver's side, because it does talk about the passenger side clearance issues, that the floor may have to be modified. Now, when all said and done, there's actually inside the frame here, there's a piece of flat that ran to where the old bolt holes were, and I'm sure that's so that the frame didn't crush. But when I drilled the holes originally, I ended up running into the flat iron that's inside the frame. I ended up having to drill the holes to a smaller size and then die grinding out away from that edge so that a bolt would fit in. Slid the cross member over. I'm talking this is like 1/8 to 3/16, maybe even less. Yeah, I didn't measure it exact, but anyways, it ended up where it moved the cross member to basically where it has to be, unless I want to rebuild these parts of the chassis. You know, up in here, I don't feel like taking that apart and taking flat out and trying to mess with that. I really need to do what the customer wants, which is install this kit. So that's what I've done. Right now, the floor is all screwed together. And all my measurements, nothing has moved. But my plan is to take the tunnel out up top and modify the floor for the next part of the kit. And I think it'd be easiest and nicest if I can actually pull that tunnel out to do that. And then the one part that I was wanting to highlight, I guess, is when I do that, because nothing has moved, I am going to be really tightening this cross member up underneath here using the mount to keep the car from moving while I unscrew that and modify the floor. So that's the plan. So here is the template all installed, laid out, marked out. I threw in little tiny holes in the floor so I can go underneath and clean out all the undercoating and so on that I have to clean up as well from the top. But I'm gonna pull the tunnel out and everything before that. But there's a hole at each one. Now this cut doesn't get cut, that's just so that it fits the floor. Anyway, the instructions lays that all out, but there it is laid out. So I have the floor mocked up, holding there, I guess you could say. Driver's side, lots of clearance, no issues at all. And the front of the transmission actually has to go a little bit more to the passenger side, which is gonna be an issue. So at the back and at the front, it needs to go over. Yeah, there's some serious floor clearance issues. So the pinch weld has to come right off, and then this back here needs to be shaped quite a bit. So yeah, I'm not even up all the way, and I can't go up all the way. At the back here, the shifter is actually running into where the floor is, so that all needs to come up. I'm glad I did a test fit before I really got too deep in it. So after being in and out quite a few times, fitting some stuff, it is in there, sitting in there anyway, bolted to the mock-up motor that's in here. So it's just a bare block, bolted to the motor mounts, got a couple bolts holding the bell housing together. If you look in here, yeah, the pinch weld needed to be cut off here, and this also is tipped up. I gotta neaten that up, make it look pretty. On this side as well, the pinch weld needed to come off. I'm gonna end up getting rid of this part of the pinch weld, welding this together nice. So I have the floor hump out now, and this part of the transmission tunnel, before this was all hammered up for some other reason, I'm not sure why, but now I smooth that out to look factory, and that factory dip is up, and then the factory dip ended, you know, a little lower, so now I actually took and made that factory dip go up higher to have clearance in here, and that's what we're needing. Of course, there are some tight spots up top, but it is not fit yet. But what I'm gonna do, now that I have the tranny in, I started tacking the back together. Oh, this back here, where they have you cut, this really needed to be modified to clear here. So this is a lot of hammer and dolly work in here. It's like it's created a new body line. We'll look from the inside later. But that floor hump is going to be quite a challenge at the back to make it right. But I have confidence that we have the know how to do that. So I have this tacked up. It's really rough right now. So the body line that I had talked about is this here. Used to be flat, and in order to clear the shifter, it had to be brought up. A bunch is getting cut off, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're going to use the filler that they made. I just tacked this up with little MIG. The front piece, the floor right here, this floor was really damaged up in here. Someone nailed it with a hammer a whole bunch. I fixed that up, and while I did that, I stretched this up because it was almost touching the transmission in here. So I don't know if that hadn't been done up here, whether this would have been higher or not. But anyways, I pulled this whole edge up, and then I had to straighten this out a bit in here. Of course, we're getting rid of a bunch of this, and there's good clearance. There's the hose running right here that can be moved wherever. And then on this, I English wheeled. I mean, it's just roughed out. Well, it's good enough to tack in. Me bringing this front edge up made this a very even transition, but this transition here would have been a really ugly crest and looked like a line. So I took and I English wheeled this edge to give it a contour that actually matches with the floor there, matches really nice. And then this corner as well, I beat it out a little bit with a hammer and English wheeled it as well. Right now, I can get my fingers in between transmission and the floor there. I can get my fingers in there. Yeah. So one decision that I made that I'm really liking is I didn't weld in the 4-speed floor hump right away. And originally, this curve comes around and this is completely flat. And so what I did is I reverse wheeled this to bring a curve into here, and then I curved it around with the English wheel there to make a nicer hump, and then English wheeled this. I'll have to do some more shaping and so on to make it fit. It is under the car. It's above the tranny. No one's going to see it, and I don't want to waste time for the customer, so that's why I did it rough. You can see the lines of the English wheel. Okay, so here is the tunnel with the 4-speed hump tacked in, really rough tacked in with a MIG. You can see that it's reshaped in the middle. I actually ended up shaping it more and moving it over a little bit more. The top of the bolts were tight on the shifter. Now there's good clearance. Tacked in, lined up. I'm gonna have to fill some holes as well, grind some stuff, do a little bit of hammer and dolly work to make it look a little bit better, but it's really close. This is what it looks like from the bottom. You can see that's where the floor was cut open, right in here, in here. I actually had to make an extra little cut right ahead of this to make this contour around the bolts up top. And this was also sliced here. So here, here, here. This is the new piece. And that's the factory floor hump, which of course has been changed the contour of in there. Test fit, I'm leaving it in. The customer can look at it before they pull it out. There needs to be seam sealing and everything done to it. Fits in there. There's clearance all around, decent clearance all around, except for that little tube up there, which is obviously not in place. But anyways, I guess it's time for the customer to deal with the rest of it. Overall, this kit, DIY kit, if you were gonna DIY it with the stuff, definitely doable. Of course, this would be something that I would say that you wouldn't wanna say, hey buddies, we're gonna come over and do in an evening. Especially, you never know what you're gonna get with a car this old, but heck, this thing is a beautiful piece of history. And if you were an experienced guy doing a bit of fab, this would be totally doable. If you're just a novice guy and this is your first car swap you're doing, you better be prepared to take some serious time, buy some tools, and I guess go in for the long haul, be patient, but otherwise, nice kit. Would I do it a little bit differently if I was inventing the kit? Of course, because everyone does things differently, but it's just the way it is. It should be good for this guy.